right, Rachel.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us here. My name is Carolyn Zwiner. I'm the brand director for Stella Artois. So pleased to be introducing this panel discussion. I know it'll be an incredible morning with an incredible group of women and our great moderator, Dominic, so thank you so much. For those of you that might not know, Stella Artois has been a long supporter of film, and we've actually had a presence here at Sundance since 2004. And I think the unique global audience that Sundance has made it the perfect stage for us to launch our Buy a Lady a Drink campaign 2 years ago. Our Buy a Lady a Drink campaign is in partnership with water.org and our shared commitment to help end the global water crisis. Last year, we kicked off our campaign by partnering with the talented Crystal Moselle to create a waterfront documentary, which is a 3-part documentary that showcases the impact of the global water crisis, which disproportionately affects women and children around the world. This year, we are pleased to announce and reaffirming our commitment to this great cause by a 4-year partnership with water.org, and we are committed to providing 3.5 million people around the world with long-term sustainable access to clean water by 2020. Seems exciting. But beyond just extending the campaign, we're also thrilled to announce that Stella Artois is going to be deepening its connection to the film community through a multi-year partnership with Women in Film. That's right. In support of female filmmakers who are using the power of film to impact social change. Today, we're very, very proud to be partnering with Deadline again and Women in Film for a panel by bringing together these amazing filmmakers that share our passion to inspire social change through film. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. I know it's going to be an incredible discussion. I'm going to turn it over to Dominic to kick us off. Thank you.
You know, before we begin today's discussion, I should mention we have the head of Women in Film here with us. So I think you should give it up there.
Well, thank you so much to Stella and to Deadline. We're so excited about our new relationship with Stella, and what an amazing idea to pull everybody together for this brunch, and we're really happy to be here, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. Now, before we start off, usually the job of the moderator is I'm going to introduce everyone and read their Wikipedia entry for you, but this is Sundance, and that's boring. So I'm going to allow these wonderful filmmakers to introduce themselves one by one, and then we'll start our discussion. The head of Women in Film.
Guess what? I'm a career, producer and executive. I've been doing this for about 27 years. Well, 28. And have been the president of Women in Film's board for the last 7. And most of my work involves essentially race and class and gender over the years, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more today. Most recently, I was the head of production for SDX Entertainment, and I'm opening my new company in about a week, so look forward to that announcement, and to doing more movies for women.
I'm Christine Vachon. I run a company called Killer Films. We had our 20th anniversary last year. We've made, I think, close to 100 theatrical feature films. We have 4 films at the festival. I guess I should use this to plug
Oh my God,
myself
promote.
right? So we
want women in lots of films.
We have Dina in documentary competition, Lemon in Next, which is premiering tonight, filmed by Janixa Bravo, her first feature. And then tomorrow night, Sundance, in their infinite wisdom, has programmed our 2 films against each other. Beatrice at Dinner, Miguel Arteta's film, and Where's Kira, Andrew Desanmu's film. So happy to be here.
I'm Daniela Taplin-Lundberg. I'm a film producer. I just started my own film production and finance company called Stay Gold Features. But before that, I had a company called Red Crown Productions. And before that, I had a company called Plum Pictures. And this is Patty Cakes is a film I've produced that is premiering tomorrow. And I just was looking, it's the 13th movie I've had here at Sundance, and so exciting to come back. Yeah. So I produced Beasts of No Nation and Hello, My Name is Doris last year, and The Kids Are All Right, and so I'm just happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Hi. My name is Crystal Moselle, and I'm a director. and I did a documentary a couple years ago called The Wolf Pack that won the Grand Jury Prize.
You can applaud for that.
I've been making commercials for like over 10 years to make money, and now now I'm trying to make more films. I just got back from the Sundance Screenwriter Lab with a project that I'm doing, and I also just did this project with Stella on 3 women dealing with the world water crisis, which I guess we'll talk a little bit about. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here as well. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Rachel Shane, and I'm the president of production at Odd Lot Entertainment, and that is Deidre Pritzker's production and finance film and TV company. And I'm here with the film Landline, which screened on Friday. It's Gillian Robespierre's second film and her follow-up to Obvious Child, which was also at Sundance 3 years ago. And we've produced at Odd Lot and financed multiple films, and Hell or High Water is a film that we made this past year.
Yeah. You again should applaud for Hell or High Water. We're all about the plugging here, all right? You say the name Deadline over and over, I'm good with that.
So anyway, I'm very excited to be here.
Well, and thank you everyone for introducing. You did so much better than I would, trust me. Crystal, you brought it up, and Carolyn obviously brought it up in the introduction. Tell us a little bit about this project you did with Stella, because social engagement and raising awareness in social issues has become a huge part of their initiative, and you really kicked it off with this trio.
Yeah, so I think probably the most interesting part about doing this project with Stella Artois is that they gave me a final cut. They just literally let me just go off and do my own thing. Like, no, there's nobody on set or anything. There wasn't really a set. It was just me in third world countries meeting ladies that are dealing with the world water crisis. And so we went to Kenya, Haiti, and Peru and spent about 2 weeks in each location. And we go, and I have like a weird knack for casting people or just like attracting interesting people into my life, hence the Wolf Pack and another story that
Interesting being a very low-key way of describing that one.
So yeah, I'll talk about Marie from Haiti. I met her. She's a midwife who lives in this little town, Levesque, and she has to travel about a mile to get water. And she
Is that a mile every day, Crystal?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's 3 times a day because she's a midwife and she's treating people in her little village, and she's the only person that's the closest to a doctor. And it's heartbreaking, but I didn't want to tell these stories as like she's a victim, because she's incredibly resilient and powerful and amazing, and she like sings all day and has like this really sexy walk. And she's like an incredible character, and that's really what kicked off the idea for this series. And it's just really a slice of life of these women and what they deal with every day, and every single, there's so many different issues with getting water. Like it's a very complex situation, and I guess we just want these films to be able to kind of show you the different parts of the world and how difficult it is for these women, but also how resilient they are.
Crystal, before you started work on Waterfront, what was your awareness of the global water crisis?
I didn't have a lot of awareness, and it completely changed my life and opened my eyes to an issue that I think is probably the biggest issue on our planet.
And
a basic need, water.
And so as a filmmaker going forward, how will this inform your work?
I mean, I think that I kind of made a rule that whatever project I work on has to have some sort of social issue, something to teach people, or where we can open people's eyes. And whether, even on commercial projects, like I've made that rule as well. So, it's
Christine,
eye-opener.
There has been, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the past year, because everyone has an opinion about it and we can all go about it forever, but obviously politics and the change that we're seeing in our culture here in America and around the world is a topic that are on many people's minds. As a filmmaker, how do you assess how you bring those issues into your work, or do you? You just let the work speak for itself?
I mean, it's tricky. I think, look, I don't want to make spinachy movies because I don't think people want to see them. I was talking to the two young filmmakers who won the Horizon Award yesterday, and talking about them as women, both women of color, like going forward, the kinds of stories they were going to tell. And to your point about what do we do now, I was really thinking back to the early 90s, and when I really started making movies, it was right in the middle of the AIDS crisis. And it was very much the kind of stories we were telling came very much out of that sense of, if we don't tell these stories, nobody will, and we can't ask for permission anymore. We just have to figure it the fuck out. And I feel that now from a lot of younger filmmakers who are feeling like, I have to make my voice heard. And of course, as a company that's been around for a long time, what we've always tried to do is just, walk that delicate line. I mean, I'm sure everybody up here has too. Of like, how do you make movies that are commercially viable, but that still, have something, have teeth, and can provoke, and really make you feel like that they're really about something. I mean, yesterday at the rally, Kim Pierce was talking about Boys Don't Cry, and it's really crazy to think that film is 19 years old.
That's amazing, really?
17.
I think it's actually a little older. I think it's an adult now.
Well, she's probably here, and she said 17.
Daniela, with Beasts of No Nation, I mean, this was a film that literally was through the eyes of a child. Yep. And when you make a film like that, there's a lot of people who watch that film because of Carrie and because of Idris, and that is what it is. But telling that story, how do you find a way? I'm always interested because I don't think anyone, well, maybe some people do, but I don't, enjoy the tub thumping. Like I get it. This is what you believe politically, and this is where you are. That's a conversation that you can have in 5 minutes. How do you tell a story where you're taking a point of view in terms of the world we live in, especially in terms of social activism, and how do you tell it in a way in which you bring the audience into it?
Christine sort of touched upon something that is so important for us as producers, male or female, which is, I think everyone up here wants to tell a unique story and tell a story of something you haven't seen or open people's eyes and make a positive impact. And I think that's probably what drives so many of us. But the other side of that is making sure people go see that movie, because our industry is a business as much as it is an art. And so for Beasts of No Nation, that was just a script. When I read it, I had never seen anything like it. I had never read anything like it. And Carrie was a filmmaker that I thought had one of the most unique perspectives that I had seen in a long time. But that movie didn't get made for many, many years. It wasn't a commercial prospect. I mean, the lead is a child soldier. So you have to be really smart about that. We made that for a very modest budget. Carrie was very much on the rise and someone that people were very interested in hearing from. He had just come off of True Detective. And Idris Elba was also someone who people were really interested in seeing. But we knew if that movie wasn't excellently executed, no one would care. So I think that's the constant struggle for us, finding films that feel like they're telling stories that haven't been told, but that feel commercial, that not only the people here are going to see, but like the people across America are going to see.
Did you find, I mean, one of the things about Beasts is, of course, it was one of the first feature films, if not the first, wasn't it, on Netflix?
Yeah.
What did that have? Do you think that was an advantage for you guys?
Definitely. I mean, in retrospect, and I'm being very honest here, but I don't know if Beasts had had a traditional theatrical release, if it would have made the impact that it did. Netflix got behind that movie in a way that most movies do not get. They did it. It put all its support behind it. You saw it on every bus, on every TV. I mean, it was just in your face, and I'm so grateful to them because we as producers don't get the luxury of that very often.
Kathy, do you feel, and I ask you this both in your capacity in women in film and also your capacity as a filmmaker, do you feel that the change we've seen in all the platforms, and actually this is open to everyone in many ways, the changes in platforms, the multitude of platforms, 4 years ago, Amazon and Netflix weren't walking around here with checkbooks. It was like, and 10 years ago, a lot of films that were shown here, we're lucky if they got a couple of showings down basically in the Village, in NYC,
Yep.
a couple of showings out in LA, and maybe in San Francisco. And that was kind of what kept the indie circuit going, and then college towns. How have the changes in platforms, how do you think that's changed the role and the access that women have to making films today?
It's a really good question. I think, probably first we have to look at how the change in platforms is affecting the industry overall, which is here to stay, is the best way I can say it. We're coming to the end of one era of theatrical and coming into another one, and which isn't to say there won't be ways and to keep having some theatrical experiences, however that shakes itself out, and I have opinions on that, but not really our subject. But I think
You can go for it.
No, it's okay. There's no question that we're in a big sea change. I see it as a very, very good thing as it regards access to content for audiences. I'm not so sure I see it as quite as good of a thing for filmmakers.
Why?
For a lot of different reasons. Because access is a really important thing. There's other things too. I'm not a giant fan of all the beauty of filmmaking and all of the things we can do technologically being shrunk down to people watching it in teeny little screens. There's an artistic effect of that, and there's also a beauty to film that will never be recovered, and certainly digital already took a dig at that. But and then it's changing the economics. It's going to continue to put the economics in the hands of the companies and less in the hands of the filmmakers, even more so now. But I think, but overall, when we talk about ability to tell stories and more content platforms and easier access to platforms, I think it's a big yes for everybody. And therefore, I think women will, by nature and just by ratio, start to have more opportunities. But equally as important, essentially the marketing risk is so much lower for these platforms that many of the obstacles, and now I'll speak sort of scientifically as it regards the research that we've been doing for years now at Women in Film and sometimes with Sundances, there's a very close link between opportunities for female filmmakers and female content and an inability to access money. And it's for a million different reasons, and among the top ones are very mythological reasons. We're not giving women money because they're too busy multitasking and they can't take care of the money, or they're moody and they can't control
You're
money.
having babies all the time?
Having babies all the time.
That's
We're
the
really,
patriarchy fallback one.
really bad at managing money, things like this. As a matter of fact, this comes from the research that Stacy Smith, who I see is sitting right there, was able to identify in some of our earlier research after 30,000 data points of learning this kind of a thing. And so what I'm trying to say is that, the fact that the intersection point from an economic standpoint is less brutal in terms of the amount of money that needs to be spent in marketing, that will increase opportunities for women because financial risk essentially is going down for these kinds of companies. They're just not clunky. What's great about Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and more is, their business models make more sense for them and therefore for us because they're just not fighting against this marketing system. The fact is that the studios spend so much money for so little effect. I did a movie this year called The Edge of 17. I don't know if people have seen it. And I think, and it's amazing. This is a movie that, and I'm speaking on behalf of the great creative team, not myself, but I just want to make a point. A movie that could be at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think it's even been below 96 ever, that is, and with,
Andy, you are amazing at math, aren't you?
What?
You're great at math.
And no, but the point being that a movie like that, and a Directors Guild nominations and Golden Globe, whatever, but not seen. I'm going to be honest. Well, and I know, and I don't know if I'm totally free to say, but the studio, spent, let's just say the number was above $25 million on P&A. And when you think about a movie that was made, for approximately $10 million, that was made for approximately $10 million, that then has that kind of a spend that makes no impact on the box office, even though it's critically reviewed that way. First of all, I could criticize the studio's plan, but the bigger point is, look, that is a really hard situation for any business to be in. And wish the movie had come out, frankly, on Netflix or Amazon, because I believe, teenagers all over the world and everyone that remembers what it was like would have seen Haley Steinfeld's performance and been as blown away as the critics who saw it were, and the people who didn't. I'm glad some of you managed to get yourself, to see it. But this is and that was a first-time female writer-director who's also the only woman nominated for a DGA award this year. Thank God for Kelly. But what a weird circumstance. So I think the trend will help. That was the longest answer to a relatively
Great.
short question.
It was a great answer. You guys should applaud. Come on.
No.
Should always leave these panels with a couple of things. I was at this panel at Sundance. Let me tell you. Do you know what's happening with the P&A and Mercedes?
Yeah.
Rachel, I mean, for you, Kathy brings up an interesting point, which is, for all our discussion about gender and social activism, there's also a generational discussion that's happening here, which is that the different generations of women and men, and they're just viewing film differently. How does that impact on the kind of projects that you work on and the kind of where they end up?
To speak to what Kathy was saying, I embrace the technology. I think it's here, and I think it's a benefit to filmmakers, actually, at the end of the day.
I'm telling her to hold her mic up to her face.
Can you hear me?
Rachel, I feel like a little bit of a mentor, but I want them to hear your beautiful voice.
But if we speak about Landline, and that was a film that we got behind, female director, writer, producer. Our company Odd Lot is run by women, and it was very important for us as a driving force. But the content, if you look at it, it's Jenny Slate, who appeals to very young women. A newcomer, Abby Quinn, who is amazing, and you should watch out for her. She just turned 21, but she plays 17-ish. And I think that a youth audience is going to be very interested in seeing them on their home screen, their small screen, and I applaud it. So,
Just to speak to that, I did a movie last year called Hello, My Name is Doris with Roadside Attractions, which did such a good job. That movie was like a little $1 million movie, and it did, 15 million at the domestic box office, which is like a really good thing for a little tiny movie like that. And I think really the reason for it was targeting the blue hair audience, which just, they go to movies in a very traditional way. They look at the newspaper,
Find that 3:30 listing.
they go to that 3:30 listing, and they are not, downloading on their phones. And that's a very different model than Landline, And so it really does depend on your film. If you're targeting an older audience, they're going to see movies more traditionally. But kids are not going to the theaters, unless it's Batman. They're really just going to download it or watch it on Netflix.
But it also begs the question then, as a producer, when you're considering a project, is to really interrogate what makes something theatrical.
Exactly.
And that's,
Yep.
when we first started out, everything was theatrical. It wasn't anything
That's
else. So, but now that question really, like, what, I don't know, for you, what makes something have that thing that will make people
Go to
leave
the
their
theater.
homes?
Yep.
I mean,
right.
a good example, I'd say, is Still Alice, which kind of could have gone either way.
Yep.
And in fact, when we were trying to get it financed, there was a lot of like, oh, it's a disease of the week movie, or like you should be pitching to TV, and we bet on that performance, that
Right.
performance would be so strong that everyone would want to be part of the conversation.
That's right.
I feel like in some ways, even Christina, you talk about gauging what is theatrical. Like
Yeah.
I think we're reaching the point now. I've said it too many times probably, but just if you look at, I remember when I first started coming to Sundance. Sundance was you knew what it was.
Yep.
In the past couple years, it's getting close to the point where there's almost as much TV here as there is films. ABC is debuting a half-hour sitcom here in I think tomorrow, Downward Dog. There's a mid-season replacement. At the same time as maybe Sundance needs to reconsider calling itself the Sundance Film and Television Festival, what actually is, like, I hear people from Netflix saying, oh, we're doing a TV series. It's like, well, what does that mean anymore?
Right.
Is a TV series something that's on a network that runs for 22 episodes over the fall that my grandma and I watch? Or is it 6 episodes that's on Netflix that all goes up at once? Or is it 9 episodes on Hulu? And what's a movie?
Well, it's more like it describes the format rather than the platform now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
And you know, Crystal, I mean, Wolfpack felt, I remember when I saw it, it felt like, oh, she could make a TV series out of this. Has got TV written all over it.
With the boys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and no, but to that sense is, you know, it's like, as,
If you want to wrangle them,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it.
not my job.
No,
But, and you did an awesome one, so why would I? But the thing is you could have, like, I looked at that and I thought this could have been a 6-part television series.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, how do you decide what the format is in a universe where that format is really,
Yeah.
give us the content and then tell us how to put it out.
Wolfpack actually did really well in theaters, but our main demographic of people coming to see our film was actually middle-aged moms,
Yeah.
and that's like our following.
Because they go see movies.
Yeah.
Hey, Crystal,
That's
just so I'm sure just describe briefly what Wolfpack is for people who haven't seen it.
The Wolfpack is about 6 brothers that grew up in New York, completely isolated from society. Their only window to the world was movies. Their dad kept them in the house, and they started reenacting films with homemade costumes and sets out of cardboard and various things.
And it's amazing.
It is.
And it's amazing. Christine, sorry, you were going to say something?
No,
I thought-
I was going to say something about this this decision-making process, but first, and sort of also the crossover women thing. So I was just going to talk about another film that I did this year called Bad Moms. I think thank you, was
Struck a chord, I guess.
okay, and that is a perfect segue, because here's what I'm going to say. Because I think it's really important for women. I still think there's a big opportunity theatrically for eventized films.
Yes.
And everyone thinks an eventized film can only mean, not everyone, sorry, but people think an eventized film means
Superhero.
it has to be a superhero film. And what I wanted to point out is, you know, commonality of experience can also be eventized. And, you know, when you were talking about earlier on, like, what makes you choose a film, if it's going to be political or not or whatever. See, for me, I'm like a pretty political person, and I wait to read things that ring true for me in my politics, but that will be commercial, and then I feel like it's all going to happen because it's connected. But you know, like, because I had this moment where I was like, Jesus, that's so true, and then it becomes politicized. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is that Bad Moms. Okay, so the Bad Moms
Which has a
experience-
sequel.
Yes, the Bad
Yeah.
Moms is about to have a sequel, and but what's interesting about it is the fact that we were looking at a script in its original spec form that, no question about it, you know, we were talking about, well, yeah, it could work like Hangover, it could work like Bridesmaids, like whatever. But there was something else that happened as we got together and started to develop it, which was specifically, and I'm just going to put it in my own words, but a lot of people had similar experiences. And I said the sentence, I swear to God, every single day as a working mom, I want to just pull over in my car and cry, which is a line now in the movie. And at that very moment where you realize there's an event in this, and it wasn't even how we started. It was like, do you know anybody who wouldn't say that in any social group, in any class, color, creed, that wouldn't say that while you're in the heavy duty period of mothering, you know, when you're still driving and doing everything you need to do, the pre-16 period, and you're trying to work full time, that your life is a constant state of disappointments, not to mention your romantic affairs and everything else you're trying to pull together, not to mention you're falling apart physically. But, you know, see how you're all laughing?
Yeah, you just throw it out there, don't
Yeah,
you?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is an age thing. But they're laughing because, and thank you, because of the fact that that's eventizing. So I want to point out that for female filmmakers, I'm trying to get to my theme here. For female filmmakers, part of the answer here is that when doing what everyone's been saying about identifying what is the format, is this something that's commercial? Is this something that can make an impact and can, as Danielle said, you know, make money? Look for eventizing concepts.
Yeah.
They can still be political. That's a political movie in a very comedic format, but there's a lot of politics in that. You know, look at the male character. Look at how the husband was portrayed. Sorry, husbands. But there's a politic in that too. So my point is, you can hit that really narrow brass ring if you do something eventized also about women and it's got commonality.
I was, just to this point, I was speaking to Liz Banks, who directed Pitch Perfect 2, and she had produced and came up with the concept, and she has made it like a mission to go sit with female filmmakers and make this very thing sort of a priority. As female filmmakers, when you are conceiving of a project, how will the audience respond? Can you eventize it? Can you make it something that the marketplace will respond to and you can make money on. And of course, we all have projects that we love and they're passion projects, but then ask yourself the next question: will people go see this? And I think it's a really important point for female filmmakers.
You also need a really good log line.
Yeah.
Seriously, like you just got to be able to,
Yeah.
like Wolfpack. I feel like it just spread like wildfire because
Yeah.
it's like people are like, what? What is that about? I don't get it. Are you serious?
Well, and that's what I think also is part of the success of Bad Moms. Like, you get, I mean,
Yes.
you get, it's like Bad Santa. Bad Santa 2, not so much. But, like, you get it. It's like, I remember when I was in television, working with producers sometimes, and we used to come up with a thing called the Get It Edit.
Yeah.
Because you'd sit in there with a producer, they'd be like, I don't get what this is about. And they're like, okay, so we used to put up a slate. Like, and then blah, 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 blah happened. They're like, and you hear them back, I get it. I get it, right? And I think that works with film, because I think in today's society, the way that information is so, information's a river, if not a hurricane most of the time.
Right.
And then the sources of which it comes from, to find somewhere where people go like, oh, I get it. Like, I remember that with Wolfpack. I was like, really? They locked away all those years and they created their own movies? I was like, what is that? How does that work?
That's also like self-distinguishing storytelling. Like you need
Exactly.
original ideas.
Feels very fresh. Yeah.
One thing that we've seen a lot in the past couple of years is film has taken, and I don't really want to talk about it just in terms of political sense, but I will use Wolfpack as an example, is the ability of film, and it's not just centered on documentary, but the ability of film to capture a moment in time, to capture a state of time. And I wonder, is that a product of our times? Is that a product of technology? Why are we're finding these stories now? Or, to talk to what you guys talked about earlier, is it like, well, look, Hollywood's making superhero movies that blow things up all the time. So we're making stories that are about, this is the story, these are people. And Christine, do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, look, I guess you're talking about like that a lot of what we end up making is in some ways, the alternative.
I'd say, and I wouldn't even say so much. It's the precision. It's intimate and it's close,
Right.
and you feel it.
I mean, that's the result of a lot of different things. I mean, character-driven drama is what we know and love. We do a lot of female-driven drama as well, and I don't necessarily think about, this is going to be, this is an alternative to the blockbuster. But, sometimes that's what it is. But I think back also to the whole point of like what makes things theatrical. I think just to expand that a little bit, because I think it's interesting, is that we are now making movies that we know will probably have a limited theatrical life. And you touched on this a little bit, I think, about, if you're making a movie for a younger audience, usually they don't go to the theaters. And our film Goat that was here last year had a very strong SVOD release, and because we knew that college students were only going to see it that way. Now, a lot of young filmmakers come in and talk to me and they say, yeah, I want to make movies. I always say, who's your audience? And they go, my audience is art house, theatrical and really young. And I'm like, those words don't go together.
Yeah.
That's no such thing.
But White Girl did pretty well theatrically.
White Girl was bought by Netflix. They let us have a little theatrical window, and it actually ended up, I wouldn't say it did well, because that implies a lot of cash, but it sat at the Angelica for almost 3 months. So yeah, it made a lot of noise.
And what's interesting about Landline is it's cross-generational, and we have Jenny and Abby Quinn who are younger, but there's also Edie Falco and John Turturro, and you're really exploring their relationship and the universality of monogamy and divorce, and I think that can, cross into theatrical where people of different generations will be interested. So that's our hope, at least.
And one of the things too is it's funny, you guys talked about it. You talked about sort of older people go to films, younger people download, but then of course there's the other issue of older people who can't get out of the house, and statistics are showing that Amazon and Netflix have great appeal to them. Just like 15 or 20 years ago, seniors were some of the first people to get down with like email, because that's the way they could tell their grandson in New Jersey like to come and visit more often. I wondered if with that, it feels like we're in an era where the rules, there just are no more rules anymore.
You know, I think that what we know a little bit statistically, you know, and what you just said, I just want to speak specifically to that question. One of the things that you have to look at as a variable with older people is that, or specifically retired people, is that they actually have a different ratio of time to watch content. So they do both. They watch certain things at home, and they also like to arrange certain nights or afternoons to go out and see film. So I'm not so sure if that's a question of the demographic that because you have to deal with that time, the difference. Because young people see only one movie a month anyway, theatrically.
Yeah.
Is that even still current? Does someone know that, Stacey?
I don't know if that is
I don't
current.
even know if that's current anymore. That was current last year. I think I
But
just
you
gave
know
a
what the
a year-old statistic.
That statistic I think gets thrown around because it gets averaged. But really what you have like January, February, March, and then you have June, July, August, and then down again, right? And then gets averaged across the
So
year.
it's more about like
It's the sum.
10 movies a year.
It's the blockbusters. It's the blockbusters.
I mean, to your point, I think it is such a fluid and fluctuating market, and this market happens to be huge because Amazon is buying huge, and they just bought The Big Sick for $12 million, and great, they're opening up the floodgates, and that's great. But I think for us as producers, or I don't want to speak for these guys, but you just got to focus on the content. Like, make it good, make it unique, make it fresh, and like that's all we can do. Because
do you guys worry about? I'm just asking to my fellow panelists if I can, because I
Oh, you
just
guys
think
talk-
about this.
I can
all the
leave.
time. I mean, I don't even know why they brought you, but
You and me both, sister. Trust me.
no, I'm just wondering if you guys have. I wake up sometimes with this kind of sweat about there's too much content. It's frustrating. It's everywhere. I can't make anything out of it. We're over glutting. Do you guys think about that?
I mean, you know, I know, for example, I have this discussion with Ted Hope all the time about how, you know, every movie we make these days is not only competing against its peers, it's competing against the whole history of cinema. So why would you choose, you know, to download this new cool movie when you could watch the complete works of Fassbender, you know? So,
You know, Christine, I think you're giving away a very personal perspective on that one.
but I think it's
Let's
true.
do that once a week.
But it's true. It's true but it's almost like it's one of those things that I kind of can't think about too much.
Yeah, it's
You know?
anxiety attacks.
yeah.
So just don't think about it. Just make
But
good
but
content.
I
Just
also
make your content.
it's a good litmus because I used to, when I was at Plum Pictures, I had this company. I was very young, and we made 20 movies in 5 years, and we raised all the money, and no one went to see most of the movies. I mean, we were just like churning out movies, and just for the sake of producing movies. And as I've gotten older, I just realized, like, you put so much into every movie you produce. It better be good, or you better believe it's good, and you better believe in the director. You better believe that script is unique and may make a ruckus here or wherever you're trying to sell it. So it's just caused me to get a little bit more focused.
And frankly, as a consumer, I actually like the choice. I love it. So
Crystal?
I don't know.
No one in America ever says, I don't know.
I just make.
She
My
focuses
work.
on her art. Right? That's your job.
I binge watch things on Netflix too.
But
It makes you feel crazy though.
Pardon me?
It can make you feel a little crazy when you're binge
Well, I
watching.
mean, I think to Christine's point, I mean, the playing field isn't, you know, you're not taking on, you know, whatever's opening that weekend or whatever.
Right.
You're like, I could watch this, or I could watch All About Eve.
Right.
You know, or I could watch the complete works of Fassbender. I mean, it's like, or not. Or I could watch 5 minutes of it and say, nah, actually, I want to watch All About Eve.
Or
wanna watch
I
Bad
could
Moms.
just YouTube all day long. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even only art. It's not even the movies. It's like everything in every way. And yeah. So anyway, I just wonder, like, I mean, for how long? I mean, I understand like Netflix and Amazon are gobbling up movies right now, you know, like nuts in a bowl. I bet every one of us is making a movie for one of those two places right now, or at least is in business. Is anyone not in business with those companies right now? Oh, okay. Well, all right. It's only a minute. Don't worry. I mean, it's interesting.
But Crystal will be, I bet.
Yeah, you will be in a minute.
Maybe
I think
next
it's-
week I will be.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I'm just thinking about, like, Christina and I, who've been at this for the longest and have known each other for 800 years, you know, like,
Have you guys ever binged Fassbender together?
have we done that?
I'm not sure, but we could.
We could. I think we should do that because we've got a lot of free time lately. No, but I was going to say that the idea that if we were at Sundance, let's just rewind 20 years where we were both here, and we could rewind further. you know, the idea that we'd be sitting up on a panel, A, with a group of women, but more importantly, I mean, not as importantly, that we were all talking about, you know, Netflix and Amazon. I mean, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. That wasn't even, it couldn't have even entered. If somebody had said that a movie was, you know, that something you made should go to television, you would have, you know, crawled under the table and cried back then. You know, and like you say about the content, now it's just,
But not even, as you guys said, not even television, but to my phone. You
Oh,
know,
well,
like
we
waiting in
didn't
an
have them.
airport. You know.
you know, I mean, I know, yeah. Anyway, but it's a quick. You know, I was about to even date myself worse. But I think that, you know, this is a very interesting thing, and it's going to be interesting to see how long the gobble up, you know, can take and how much content can be pushed.
Well, we have to conclude our panel. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. I thank our wonderful filmmakers for joining us.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
the panel is over, but the good times aren't, so to speak. So please stick around. There's a cocktail party to celebrate Stella Artois' partnership with Women in Film, and we invite you all to stay. Thank you so much. We'll see you next year at Sundance. Have a great time.